Welcome to the session. In the previous session we had started with a control structure. So we know that there are two different types of control structure. One is the branching control structure, the second one is loop control structure. So in the previous class we had discussed completely with example with respect to your branching control structure, and we also had started with the loop control structure, wherein we have two different types of loop control structure. One is command control loop, the other one is list control loop. So we had discussed about the command control loop in the previous session. So in this session let us continue with list control loop. So before going to the list control loop, we shall see what is the difference between command control loop and list controlled loop. We know that the example for command control loops are while loop and until loop. Why we call it as a command control loop is that the set of statements will be executed based on the provided condition. So the statements has always a dependency over the given condition. If condition is satisfied, then the set of statements within the loop will be executed. So that's with respect to your command control loop. And here in the list control loop, the best example for your list control loop is your for loop. So why this is called as a list control loop? The reason is the set of statement will be executed based on the list of variables that is being given. Hence it is called as a listed control loop, or for loop is also called as a listed control loop. So this is the general syntax of for loop in terms of your shell program. I'll take a simple example here. So here x is a variable and we just check whether this is your list of variables where x can take the value 1, x can take the value 3, and x can also take the value 5. So how it works? Now first time the value of x is 1, and yes, 1 is given to your x, so that your value of your x will be printed as 1. Again the control is given back to your for loop and checks whether your variable is in the list. Yes, the way you have a list called as a 3, you have a value called as a 3 in the x. That means this particular statement always has a dependency of execution based on the given list. So if you have several more list, so now this will be executed for 3 times. Now if I include one more element in the list, then this will be executed for 4 times. So it executes by taking the value of x as 1 and prints the value of x as 1, and the control is given back to your for loop, and it executes this particular statement by taking the value of your x as 3 and prints the value of x as 3, and control is written back to your for loop, and it takes the value of x as 5 and the value of 5 will be printed. And if you would like to print some more elements like 7, 9, 11, whichever the elements that you would like to work it on, just list out those variables in the for loop, so that your x value will be substituted with those list of variables, and based on this list of variables the set of statements within the block will be executed. So this is your for loop. We will see some more example with that. So here is an example which helps to find out or to generate a multiplication table for your given n. Say for example, I would like to generate a table for your element 5. So I should have to generate my output as 5 into 1 equals to 5, 5 into 2 equals to 10, 5 into 3 equals to 15. So this is the multiplication table which I need to generate till 10. 5 tens are 15, 50. So this is what we had already discussed in the lab. So let me again explain this. Now I is your variable, and from we have listed the variables ranging from 1 to 10, where I can take the value 1, I can take the value 2, I can take the value 3, and I can take the value from 1 to 10 which is listed in this particular elements. So now taking this value of I, let me take the value. Now I will assume the value of n is 5, and for the first time the value of I is 1, I equals to 1. Now performs the calculations, that is n into what is the value of n? N is 5, 5 into the value of I for the first time is taken as 1, and we have an expression to calculate the product of n and I. So this is your product operator. So now the value of your n is 5. 5 into I, the value of I is 1. So 5 into 1 is 5. So now the control is again given back to your for loop, where I this time takes the value of I as 2. So I will be 2 this time. Now again executes this particular statement. So 2 5 into, now the value of I is 2, so that will be printed as it is, which is given in the echo command, and we have an expr, where expr is used to perform the arithmetic calculations. So this is your product operator. So 5 into 2 is 10, and again the control will be given back to your for loop, and this set of operations will be incremented till your I value reaches your 10. So this is the range of the value which we have given, where I can take the value from 1 to 10. So that's why we call it as this is your list variables. So all the statements within the block has always a dependency on the list variables, hence your for loop is called as list controlled loop. Going forward, so we'll see some more example how your for loop can be used to execute or to write your shell program. So this is another example wherein I would like to check. See, dir is a variable which will store a directory. Let me assume that it can store a names of your directory or these names of your subdirectory within the directory. When I say star, all the subdirectories of your directory. So you have to check what are the different subdirectories that is present in your variable called as a dir, where your dir is a directory. So star represents all subdirectories. So now what we do is we will check whether a subdirectory exists in our dir. Now we make use of your if statement, and -d represents, -d is nothing but what type of a directory it is. What type of directory it is. So if a directory exists, see, if this -d represents what type of a directory, and if the directory exists, then we are going to return what is the name of that subdirectory which is present in dir. So we are going to check star represents all the subdirectories which is present in the directory, and we check what is the type of your subdirectory, and we check whether the subdirectory exists in dir. If the subdirectory exists in dir, that particular subdirectory will be displayed. So if I would like to display the subdirectories of a given variable dir, all the directories or the subdirectories, if I would like to display it, then I'm going to make use of your for loop and check whether all your subdirectories exist in the directories. So now check whether the directory exists and what type of a directory it is. If the directory is present, then display it. So here we have another example to go forward with your file to check if a particular type of a file exists or not. Now what is this? Star represents all, and .c, we are going to check whether file with .c represents your C program. So list out all the files which has an extension called as .c. So star represents all. So we have to check whether the file is of type .c or the file is of type C program file. If the file is a C program file or not. If the file is a C program, then we have to list out the name of the file. So now it checks whether the file has with an extension called as .c. Yes, let me assume that we have a file called as pgm1.c and represents star represents all the file. So when I say all the file, pgm1.c also belongs to this particular star. Yes, pgm1.c present in file, and this particular pgm1.c will be listed out, and again the control is given back to your for loop and checks if the file with .c exists or not. So it is going to list out all the files whose extension is .c or whose file is a C program file. Then it is going to list out all such files which is present in the directory. So this is how you make use of your for loop. So now we have another example to check whether what type of a permission is being given to your file. We know that we have three different types of permissions that or the operations that we can perform on the file. One is the read operation, the second one is the write operation, and the third one is the execute operation. So we need to check whether the file is being opened to perform a read operation, or whether the file has the permission to perform a read operation or a write operation. Now this particular snippet or the code, what it shows is display all the types of file if file has a read permission or a write permission. So here -o represents OR operation. So it checks whether the file has a read permission or if the file has a write permission. If the file has a read or the write permission, then that particular file will be displayed. So again, just I'll repeat that. We are going to check all the permissions of the file and see that either the file should have the read operation or read permission, or it is a write permission. So this is going to display all the files whichever the file has a read permission as well as the write permission. -o represents OR operation. The file should have a read permission or the file should have the write permission. So this is going to display only those files. If the file has execution permission, then such files will not be displayed. So going forward, we have a lab program wherein we have to display the all the file permission. So we have a program, a shell script to display, a shell script program to display all file permission. So here let me display the files which has only the read permission. So this is the first part of your code. So this is your first part of the code, and the second part, continuation part, is your this one. So let me start with the first part of the code. So I'm going to display all the files which has read permission. So I'm going to make use of a for loop, check for all the files if it does has a read permission. Now what is the statement that I'm going to execute is, now what this -f represents, now check the file if it exists. So -f represents the file should be present and the file should have a read permission. So the first part in the if condition is whatever the files that we have, so if the file should be exist at first, and if the file exists, to check whether the file exists or not, we are going to make use of your -f. If file exists, A, here A stands for AND operation. Check if file exists, and if file exists, check whether the file is given with the read permission or not. If it has been given as a read permission, then such file will be displayed here. So that is the first part of your code where I'm going to display the read permission. So the second one is, so this should be write permission. So this is your write permission. I would like to display the file with write permission. The same code. Here I'm going to view all the files and check if the file exists or not, and if the files exist, AND operation. If file exists, check whether the file has a write permission or not. If file has a write permission, then display such kind of a file. So very similar to the previous code, only the thing is -r represents read permission, -w represents write permission. Don't get confused that here -a doesn't mean that it is a append. This is not append. It cannot become an append here. Here -a represents a AND. So check if file exists. If file exists, then check if the file has a write permission. If it has a write permission, then display that particular file. So going forward, so here this will be your execution to check, to list out all the file which has an execution permission. So Now check, same thing, only the difference is you have the option as -x to check whether the file exists. If file exists, then check whether the file is given with the execution permission or not. If the file has an execution permission, then display that particular file. Very similar to the previous two methods. So first method is to check if the file is a read permission. The second one to display all the files which has only the write permission, and this is the snippet. So this is your third part of the program. So where it is going to check all the files and see if the file exists, and if the file exists, check that particular file has a execution permission or not. If the file has a execution permission, then you are supposed to display that particular file. So the next one, the last part of this program is I would like to display whichever the files that has both read and write operation. It should have, the file should have both read as well as the write permission. The same thing here, only the thing is we have been concatenated with multiple number of commands. The first part is to check if the file exists. If the file exists, then check if the file is been given with a write permission, and if the file is been given with the read permission. If the file has both read and write permission, first of all the file has to be existed. If file existed, it has to check if the file has the write permission as well as if the file has read permission. So it is going to display all the files which has both read permission as well as the write permission. So this is how you make use of a for loop to check the permission of your file. For loop can also be executed in a C program format. So this is another way how your for loop can be used. So this syntax looks very similar to your C program. Only the thing is you have a multiple parenthesis which has been enclosed. So you have an expression 1 representing an initialization, expression 2 representing the final condition, and expression 3 representing either an increment operation or a decrement operation. So if the condition is true, so it take first the initial value will be taken. If the condition is true, then this statement will be executed by incrementing the value of your I. So this is going to print the value from 0 to 5. So this is very similar to your C program, where I would like to generate a value from 0 to 5. So I equals to 0 is your initial value, I less than or equals to 5 is your final condition. That means it has to be executed 6 number of times. The loop will be executed for 6 number of times, and the value of I will be incremented. Each time the loop get repeated, the value of I also gets incremented till the condition is satisfied. Once the condition is not satisfied, the statement will not be executed. So this is how a for loop is being implemented, and we have left out with one more lab program, that is to count, a shell script program that counts the number of vowels and consonants. So here what I do is I'll write a code to just enter the string, and once you give a command as enter the string, make use of your cat is concatenate, which will help you to create an empty file, and you can create a file called as str. Now it creates an empty file called as str. Within this str you can write whatever the set of strings that you would like to store, or whatever the set of characters that you would like to store in. So now str is a file which has been created using a cat. Now let me have that education is the content that I have been stored in str file. So once you type your education using your so this is where you create a file using cat and you store a content called as education. Once you have completed storing your content, press Ctrl plus D to come out of your file. Now the second part what we are going to do is, now you are going to read or display the contents that is present in the file called as str, and pipeline it. So this symbol is your pipeline. That means the output of one command is given as an input to the another command. So the contents of your the file called as str is given to another command called as wc for word count. So it is going to count the number of characters. -c represents counts the word based on the number of characters. Now see, we have how many number of characters we have? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. So 9 would be the length of your string. So once we have the length of the string, so this is how we know that how this is how your string is being represented. So E D U C A and couple of C A T I O N, but the index here in the shell script always begins with 1. So this is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 and 9. So this is how your string will be stored in the file. So we read the total number of characters that is present using your word count. So read the number of characters. -c represents word count with respect to the number of characters, and store that in length. So my length value will be 9, and your I value is being initialized to 1. Now let me initialize. I would like to calculate the vowels and consonants. If my file str doesn't have vowels and consonants, then certainly the values will be initialized to 0 and 0. Now we'll make use of a while loop and check. So here the value of I begins with 1. 1 -le represents less than or equals to, less than or equals to. So what is the length? Length is 9. Yes, 1 is less than or equals to 9. Condition is true. Now what we do is, again we give the content of your file called as str as an input to your command called as cut. So it takes the first character, cut the first character with respect to your index value. So what is my first character? That is E. Now that E is stored in a variable called as ch. So E is stored in ch, and we are going to check if the ch is present in, these are the two different conditions. So this is all your vowels. Either it should be uppercase A or lowercase a, either it should be uppercase E or lowercase e, either it should be uppercase I or lowercase I, or the uppercase O, lowercase o, or it should be uppercase U or uppercase lowercase u. So here this is not considered as a pipeline. This is in the case statement, this is considered as a or operation. So either this has to be one of these characters. So my character is ch is equals to E. Yes, it matches with E. Since it matches with E, then your vowel value will be incremented, where the earlier value of vowel was 0. Now this time 0 plus 1 will give the new value of your vowel as 1. So vowel is equals to 1. Again the control is given back to your for loop, and your I value will be incremented. So when I increment the value of your I, this time the I value will become 2, and checks what is the character that is present in your location 2. So the character that is present in location 2 is D. See, our example is education. So we have done with the first character. This has been done. So the second character is D. So D matches with these characters? No. D does not matches with none of these options. So here star represents rest of the characters. Except this rest of the characters. If it is the rest of the characters, then count it as a consonant. So you know that this particular two semicolons indicates break. It's like end of your case 1, and this is your end of your case 2. So if your character does not match with any of these cases, either A, E, I, O, U, then increment your consonant value. So D does not matches with these options. So certainly D is a consonant. So consonant will be incremented to 1. Again goes for the next one, that is U. So yes, U lies in this particular case itself. Then vowel value will be counted and it will be incremented to 2. Then control is given back to your while loop by incrementing the value of your I, and check what's your next character. Next character is C. C does not matches with these options. Certainly C is a consonant, then consonant value will be incremented. So earlier the consonant value was 1, after incrementing the consonant value becomes 2, and this happens till the length value reaches the last character. So the length value is 9 and the last character in its length is N. So we will be getting the output as, so how many vowels we have? 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So 5 will be number of vowels and 4 will be the number of consonants. To display the number of vowels and consonants, so this is two are the different statements which I have used, making use of an echo command that will print out the number of vowels as 5 and the number of consonants as 4. So that's the end of the session. Thank you.